Hello there, theater people. It is Bruce and Melanie here. We are back with Thespis in the Green Room, a whole new season. Bruce, we're back.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
I am well. I am very well. How are
It's
you?
good to be back. I am well also,
Good.
and looking forward to starting this fourth season. You've been well, correct?
I have been well. Yes, I have been crazy busy, but I have
Yeah,
been
yeah.
well. And you've been pretty busy too. We have chatted and
Yes,
seen each other on occasion, even though we haven't recorded too many podcasts in the last few months.
that's right. We try to stay connected if we can, but yeah, I've been busy doing some theater stuff and working and, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, you've done a lot of theater though, Bruce. So tell us what shows have you been involved in the since we last recorded?
Well, it's funny. It's kind of came, all at once. I mean, I did have a couple things on the books, but then I had an opportunity to do a production of The Guys in Anderson at Electric City Playhouse.
Mm.
That was in September over the weekend of the anniversary of September 11th, because that's what The Guys is about. It focuses on stories of the firemen since the firemen of September 11th. That was a really neat production, kind of came out of nowhere for me to be involved in. And so that was in September. And once that closed, then I went right into rehearsals for Elf the Musical with Greenville Theater, which was a lot of fun. It really is a real festive show. And it's very similar to the movie. If you know Elf the movie, it's very much the movie with music. And then right from there, another run of driving Miss Daisy out in Pelzer at the Milltown with the Milltown Players. So yeah, so all of a sudden, lots of theater. As soon as things started opening up, it was like jumping back in.
I know, craziness, craziness. And I got to see the guys, and you were fantastic. Such a
Oh,
good
thank you.
show, and
It
you were
is a really
wonderful.
good show. It's one I would do again because I think it's just there's so much in there and so much for the actors to really mine. So
Mhm,
it was really great.
mhm. That's a special piece. Obviously, it's about 9/11, so that's when we saw it, but I hope it's one that has a long life and gets done. That's a great time of year, but you could do it any time of year.
Yes, you really could. It's one of those things you think of, oh, 9/11. Do you want to relive that type of thing,
Mm,
And it does to a certain degree, but it really gets into, the lives of the firemen and so on, which I think so often, gets overlooked just
mhm,
because there's so many other aspects. And this was kind of a neat way to paint them. It's about this fire chief, that has to write their obituaries, and he's kind of stumped on how to do it and make his men sound the way they really are, show their wonderful qualities, and not just they're looked at as heroes, but he's like we're just normal men doing our job, and
right.
it was interesting to see how he was able to get someone to help him do that. And yeah, it's a really neat piece.
It's an excellent piece of theater. Yep, highly recommend that. Producers looking for something to produce, that's a good one.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, cool. Lots of theater for you then.
Yes. And what about you?
Well, I have managed to do a little bit of theater myself.
Mhm.
I directed a show. I was working with the Primary Theater Company, and I directed a play called Stop Kiss.
Yeah, okay. And that's
So
had a little life of its own for the last few years too.
yes, that's been making the round since it came out, really. It came out in the late 90s, off
Right.
Broadway, and it was quite the hit, and it's been produced at a lot of regional theaters and some colleges and that kind of thing, so, yeah, it's a small cast, it's an intimate play, and it was perfect. It was a perfect piece to stretch my legs as a director again. I really enjoyed
Hmm.
working with the cast, and that script was incredible.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's excellent.
and aside
And
from
what else
that
have you been doing though? Come on.
yeah, yeah.
Give.
Okay, I went back to school again,
Again.
but I am loving it. I'm loving it, loving it, loving it. I'm at Spartanburg Community College, and I'm doing digital and graphic design.
That's wild. I
So,
never would have thought that would have been something that you would have had an interest in a way.
yeah, it was never really on my radar until this podcast. And,
There you go.
with this podcast, I kind of entered the digital world, and I've had to do things like make graphics for the podcast and for social media for the podcast, and I thought, "You know what? I want to get better at this, and I kind of like this," and
Yeah.
it's been fantastic. It's a wonderful program. It's a 2-year Associates of Applied Science degree. I just wrapped up my 2nd term, and I'm in my 3rd term because we go through
Okay.
the summer, and then I'll have 2 more semesters after the one I'm currently in, and I'll be done around
Wow.
May next year. So,
Excellent.
good stuff.
Man, you're just gonna be degreed up.
Yeah. But, I love learning. I love learning all these new skills and
Melanie Williford, lifelong learner.
I am.
That's right. And we should be,
Of course we should
absolutely,
be.
we should be. Hmm.
We should be. And there's various ways to go about it. You don't have to go into degree programs. There's
Hmm.
like an assortment of ways to stretch your legs and learn new things. I mean, the internet is full of wonderful free options. YouTube
Hmm.
has a gazillion design videos and just things
Right.
like LinkedIn Learning and all kinds of stuff. So,
Hmm.
yes,
Well, and I learned to fix my washing machine on YouTube. I mean,
did
there's
you?
all sorts of, yeah.
Well, there you
I had
go.
to change the timer, the timing function thing. And yeah, you can learn just about anything. It's
I know
amazing.
it's all out there. But amongst the good stuff is also a lot of junk. So sometimes
Yeah.
you gotta weed through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's gold out there. So that's enough yammering on about us.
Yeah.
'Cause we need to talk about our guests that we're talking to today.
Yes. Yeah. We are talking to Miss Karlee Ferreira. If you've listened to us for any amount of time out there, Karlee was on our show before. This is kind of a return appearance. She is actually going to be in the upcoming production of Hamilton, which will be touring through the Peace Center in the next couple of weeks. And so we got a chance to catch up with her and talk about what she's been up to through the pandemic period. And she was recently married a couple years ago, and we got to meet her husband as well. And it's just a really nice catch up conversation before she kicks off the tour in Greenville with Hamilton.
That's right. We talked to them while they were on the road. She is traveling with her husband and her dogs.
Yes, that's
How many
right.
dogs does she have?
Two.
Two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are obviously driving their own vehicle and
Yeah.
moving around with the tour of Hamilton. Now, I found this fascinating that there are 3 different touring casts of Hamilton
Mm.
currently on the road in the US, and they all have a different name. There's the Philip cast, the Angelica cast, and the And Peggy cast currently out there right now.
And if you've seen the show, you know why we're giggling, because this and Peggy is kind of a little side joke in the show. So it's kind of
Yeah, hilarious. One of the Schuyler sisters, but not one of the ones that is heavily featured, obviously.
yeah.
2 of them have a little bit more of the story than poor Aunt
Yeah.
Peggy, but it's just great.
Yeah.
But we will be getting the Angelica cast at the Peace Center in Greenville, South Carolina. Coming up, they will be in town Tuesday, June 7th through Sunday, June 19th. And Karlee is coming home, coming with the cast.
Yes. And so, of course, we've known Karlee for a long time. She's grown up in Greenville, and we know her parents. And of course, her mom is a local choreographer that has worked with all the local theaters. And Karlee, we've watched Karlee grow up and dance on all the stages around town. And then she went professional. So she has some wonderful professional credits. And now she's going to get a chance to come home and actually perform in her hometown on the Peace Center stage, which she has performed on before, like in, again, local productions. But this time it's with a professional company. So it's really exciting for her. Some of her credits include, we'll just kind of go through them. She's been in the Hamilton, LA, and Chicago casts, the Aladdin North American tour, the In the Heights first national tour. She's appeared on Glee, Mozart in the Jungle, and she's just had a wonderful run the last few years. Of course, like everyone else, had some downtime with COVID, and so is excited to kind of get back on the road and begin this tour with Hamilton, which has just recently started again. And she gets to travel with her husband, which is a wonderful thing as well.
Yes, and that was fun to talk to Patrick.
Hmm.
He is a actor and dancer as well. So his name is Patrick Clements. Patrick is from Indiana, and he graduated from Butler University with a degree in arts administration, a voice and music emphasis. He's a member of Actors Equity Association and a trained improviser. He performed with Second City, The Pit, and Magnet Theater. His work in the arts spans from performing to nonprofit consultation and entrepreneurship. A few of his past few roles are Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar, Poseidon in The Lightning Thief, and Jimmy Ray in Bright Star. And Patrick is a proud supporter of the organization Dance On. So that's a little bit about our guests. We'll let them speak for themselves, though.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a nice time chit-chatting with them. And so without further ado, we can kind of get to it and hear what they got to say.
All right, let's listen.
Welcome to the green room, Karlee and Patrick. How are you today?
Oh, we're doing so good.
Oh, we're doing great today.
Excellent. Well, Karlee, it is so nice to have you back, and we had a great chat. Gee, it's been what, maybe 2 years?
I don't want to
Yeah.
think how long it's been. Time
Oh, it's
does not exist.
I know
It's
that
been a
we
while.
kind of lost some time as most people did. And Melanie, you're here too, right? Today?
I am here, but I just want my listeners to know I'll probably be a little quiet on this interview because there's some heavy equipment going on in the background. So I might be muting my microphone a bit during this interview. So you'll hear a lot of
All
Bruce
right.
and less
No
of me.
problem. Yeah, I like to talk, so it's okay. All right. Well, thank you, Melanie, for joining us too.
Yeah.
Well, Karlee, we are, like I said, thrilled to have you back. And joining us is your husband as well. We're going to talk about what you've been up to for the last couple of years and what you're doing now. So tell me, since we talked last, we've kind of gone through this little pandemic thing, which most people have gone through. And how did that affect y'all's life and so on with regards to the industry, working in the industry? And before we even maybe talk about that, tell us a little bit about Patrick and let us get to know him as well.
Oh, awesome. Okay, lots of questions.
Yeah.
So Patrick and we've been married. Well, we're celebrating 3 years.
3 years. I can't believe it.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, 3 years. We got married October 20th, 2019, and
Man.
they say the first year's the hardest.
They do. They say that.
Yeah,
Was it?
a pandemic in there, and
We can survive anything now.
oh yeah,
There you go. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, so we had gotten married in October of 2019. I had just celebrated, I guess, almost a year with the company. What is a year in October? So
Mhm.
I guess we talked probably a year prior to that. So it's probably been more like 3 years.
Oh, thank goodness gracious. Yeah, because it was before you. It definitely was before you got married.
Yeah.
And you were with Hamilton in Chicago, correct?
Yes, we talked in the fall, and then January 2020, we closed Hamilton in Chicago, and then we moved to LA to start up the new LA company. That was in January of 2020. We were supposed to open in March 20th.
Yeah. And we all know what happened, right?
Yes, we all know what happened. Our first preview was the day that we found out that we were going to be closing for 2 weeks because of little
Just 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks.
Just 2
Yeah.
weeks. Which turned into 2 more weeks, which turned into 2 months, which turned into almost 2 years.
Oh.
So we were in LA the whole time waiting for the show to come back, just with everything.
Yeah, we were essentially on retainer through Hamilton because we'd moved out there, so they were really good about communicating, what was happening with the show and every step of the way. But it was definitely a learning curve when we had moved. She had rehearsal and before we had met up in LA, and I was out of town for work. So we put the bags down and went to the grocery store, and there was nothing on the shelves. So
My goodness.
yeah,
Yeah.
new experience. You find out what people don't like at Trader Joe's. Very
That's
quickly.
right. There probably was plenty of chickpea pasta, though. I'm sure.
Lots of that. And
Well, it was LA. It was LA.
yeah.
That was all the sugar.
there was a lot of candied pecans. And
All the sugar was.
yeah, all the sugar was still there.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. So tell us what you did during that time period, because obviously you thought, well, like you said, it was 2 weeks and then 2 weeks. So there was not really a definite time frame as to maybe when you'd return. And so what did you do to fill your time and, during that time while you were kind of just in waiting mode?
Yeah, I mean, it was really difficult. I did a lot of nothing for a little bit, which ended up being nice because we were, still on a high from the wedding and the move. So at first it was like, great, it's vacation. And vacation, as we all know, kind of turned into, okay, well, what do we do now? I mean, we tried to keep a schedule of working out. I was fortunate enough to do a lot of Zoom classes through a dance studio in Chicago, which I am a part of their nonprofit out there. So I was able to do that, which was great. It really feels like it was like 5 years and 5 weeks in the same breath, just because we just kept getting different news about the show and it was just also uncertain. So I guess we tried to at least keep some sort of normalcy with the uncertainty of like our business.
So there wasn't a time where you were, okay, we're going to leave LA then because this is not happening. I mean, you were just going to stay put until possibly things changed?
It was more of, hey, y'all, we're going to come back in a month. So we'll let you know. And then the month passes and they're like, well, maybe a month or 2 months. And it was like, do we break our lease? Do we, because we signed a year lease knowing that we were going to be there.
Yeah.
And so it was like, do we go? Where would we go? We could go and visit family, but we really don't want to expose family.
Right.
So it's like everything
Yeah.
everyone else kind of dealt with. So we stayed, which was interesting.
Ended up being I think the best decision for us, especially with our relationship. Like, I mean, our first year married, we learned a lot,
Sure.
so that was
Well, yeah. How many people get a chance to spend really the first year really getting to know each other? You know what I mean? Without having the distraction of work and all the other things that you have to do. You know what I mean? So
Oh, absolutely.
in a way, it sounds like a kind of a blessing in disguise,
absolutely.
Yeah, it was. We had been living together in Chicago before we got married, and so it was an easier transition, I think, because we had gotten used to cohabitating. I think if we got thrust into a 1-bedroom apartment in LA for a long time with nowhere to go, it might have been a different story. But instead, it was definitely a blessing and definitely an opportunity to kind of like hone in how best to love each other.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Did you have any like real big epiphanies during the lockdown that you want to share? Any big takeaways?
Big takeaways.
I mean, I guess how precious what we do is,
Yeah.
and how grateful we are to be able to do the things that we do. Like, just having it taken away in a moment's notice, like it definitely solidified like how much I love what I do, and
Right.
how lost I kind of felt. But also there is more to life than what we do
True.
in our careers. So that was, I think that was kind of
Yeah. I think it was the really focusing on being intentional with how we spend time with people and how much value comes out of that human element of being in a room with a lot of people. I think it's one thing that makes live theater so special.
Yeah.
Is that collective energy that everyone kind of picks up on that you don't
Sure.
get when you're sitting alone in your apartment watching way too much TV. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know Melly and I talked about, they had some wonderful things online, as far as theater online that they tried to fill this time with, the theater companies and all that kind of thing. But and as wonderful as that was to have some of that and the creativity that came out of the lockdown for theater, it just still wasn't the same because, like you said, it's being in the room together and the energy that you experience and playing back and forth and, all that kind of thing that kind of, it creates the whole experience, and so we did love some of the elements, but so glad that theater is back now, that we can now enjoy it in its true form.
Absolutely.
So tell us, what is your life like now that theater is returning?
Pretty much the same, but completely different.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of like being at the theater and being able to like visit new cities, because we are on tour now as a family, which is a different experience than the sit down. I've never been in the Hamilton world on tour. I've always been in a sit down company. So the long hours and the rehearsals and exploring new cities together, that's pretty much like what I remember it and what I love about it. But everyone is in masks backstage. We get tested all the time. And we just both are recovering from COVID, I guess 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, ran from it for 2 years, and it finally got us.
It finally got us.
Oh goodness, I know the feeling. I caught it last summer, so I know where you're at.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same beautiful energy, and I think it's even more special now that everyone had lost it and can really appreciate all the good things and the things that are just slightly annoying about what we do.
Sure. Well, tell us a little bit about the Hamilton tour. How did you get involved with the tour? Because, like you said, you were in sit-down companies for the beginning of your experience with Hamilton. So tell us how that all kind of evolved and happened.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, as it always is, like timing is perfect. We were on a layoff from LA for 6 weeks because of a COVID outbreak. So they just put us on a layoff to make sure everyone was healthy and to make sure we got back and we were able to finish out our run. And in that time, the other companies were kind of suffering with coverage. as well. So they asked if any of the LA company would be able to, go and help out with coverage. And I was fortunate enough to be able to come to this company and help out. And I had already expressed interest to our creatives that I wanted to continue on
Mhm.
with Hamilton because LA was had a definite closing date. And I mean, it was kind of meant to be because the dance captain on this tour had put in her notice and I got the offer the next day.
Oh, wow.
So honestly, like it truly was, a blessing and all meant to be because
Mhm.
I put it out into the world that this was what I wanted to do, and it kind of came right back to me, So, and here
Wow.
we
Now,
are.
how does dealing with the touring company different from being in a resident company?
I think the biggest difference is moving venues
Just
each
moving venues.
time.
Okay.
Absolutely, because we have to, sound check. There are new dressers each time. There are new staff at the venue. Like it's just reacquainting yourself with a theater space and how everything sounds and how everything feels. So your show is slightly different, which I appreciate because I am a swing and that's just what I do. And I don't. I mean, some people really thrive in the consistency of it. So there's never a consistency here. Like
Right.
the show is the show, the choreography is the choreography,
Right.
everything's the same. But in terms of like, I always walk off this side of the stage and I exit right here and I can go to my dressing room right there. It's just always
Right.
different.
Different. Sure.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about being a swing for those of people don't know the terminology and what does that mean, being a swing?
Oh, absolutely. So there are three female swings and there are, I think, four male swings, and we know all of the dancer tracks. We know all of their staging, their choreography, their vocal lines, and if anybody in the company needs to call out for any reason, they will put one of us on to kind of fill in that role so the show will continue. So we also have understudies and standbys, which are no principal tracks, and understudies know our on-stage company who understudy one of the on-stage principal tracks. So it's kind of similar in terms of coverage, but
Mhm.
yeah, just a little slightly different.
All right, cool, very cool. Now, Patrick, tell us how, because you're traveling with Karlee too, and are you involved in the production in some aspect, or what are you doing in with your time?
Well, I've been working remotely, flying in and out. So the benefit was it was a shift during the pandemic. I
Mhm.
helped start a compliance company in LA when all the film industry was kind of trying to figure out how to do production in a safe way,
Mhm.
which was a really fun challenge. So I do some of that remotely now, and I do a lot of product specialist work with Mattel Toys as well. So I
Oh.
fly out and yeah, it's kind of like the movie Big. I basically work with their B2B sales and talk to major clients about the latest lines that are coming out with action figures, and it's
Oh,
so
that
much
sounds great.
fun. Oh, it's
Yeah.
wonderful. It's so much fun.
Now you're also a performer, correct?
Yeah, yeah, I'm a
Yep.
performer, I'm an improviser. Yeah, it's been I set that to the side during the pandemic just because there wasn't much going on. Improv over Zoom is a very interesting world. So I shifted a lot of that creative energy and ran this D&D campaign for 18 months with a group of people from the industry, company managers, wardrobe vanities, actors, which was really kind of like a support group through that, which
Yeah.
was
Right. Yeah.
fantastic.
That's excellent.
But yeah, so it's more about right now I'm kind of shifting into voice acting rather than stage acting because I want to be
Mhm.
able to be remote.
Well, I mean, and he was also very kind to help me get on the road.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm sure it
And
takes a
all-
lot. I mean, and
Yes.
you just to man, I guess maneuver and get everything in
Mhm.
order and just to have somebody there to kind of do some of those things and make sure things are running smoothly and you got these pups that you got to take care of, that all has its impact, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. But it's a lot of fun though too. I mean, just
Mhm.
having the family here, and I think getting settled was like the most important thing for us
Yes.
before, because he kind of definitely wants to like do theater again, and
Mhm.
I'm
Sure.
in full support
100%.
of him going and doing off contracts. But I'm just he was very kind to help me
Yeah.
get settled on the road before that game.
Yeah, it was just really tough getting out of LA and figuring out what the plan was and readjusting our life from being so, I guess, stagnant for 2
Mhm.
years, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden everything's hurry up and wait, so
Right.
it
Sure.
was an interesting transition. It's been kind of fun to see what it's like moving as a family, bouncing around the country, because I've toured before, and doing it alone is very streamlined, but doing it as a
Right.
family is you get benefits on the other side.
Sure. And there's lots of logistics, I'm sure. Even though the
Mhm.
tour probably takes care of some things, there's
Mhm.
probably just a lot that you have to kind of organize on your end.
Yeah, yeah, and it's mostly like, what do we need on the road that's
Yep.
gonna help us be comfortable and
Mhm,
happy
Mhm.
and, feel like it's still a home and not
mhm.
just a hotel room or an Airbnb. So we
Right.
travel with a little bit. We have a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very
So
nice.
that was very helpful to,
Yeah, we've been traveling with that, and we've been staying in Airbnb houses, and it's funny to see what things are missing when
Right.
you're doing an extended, like, 3-week stay in an Airbnb instead of in a two-nighter.
Right.
The lack of cooking supplies is
Yeah,
staggering.
I bet. I know you're coming to Greenville, and that's going to be a couple of a week stay, but is that the standard with this particular production? I know most of the companies that come through Greenville are here for a week at least, and then a
Mhm,
few of our more popular productions, like Hamilton, is
mhm.
like a 2-week run or a 3-week run. So how has that been for you? I mean, is it a lot of that kind of thing where you're in a place for a week or two?
Yeah, I think the shortest stay that we have on our schedule, this company in particular, is 2 weeks.
Mm.
Okay.
Which is good. Yeah.
Hmm.
I prefer a 4 week or a 3 week. We have a lot of 3 week stays in cities, a handful of 4 weeks in from time to time, but it's mostly the 2 and 3 weeks, which, make it a little more difficult for us to move, but
Hmm.
also a little more fun
Mhm.
to explore, because you only have like a certain amount of time in the city,
Right.
and this is, I
Mhm.
have to go do the things because I don't have the
Exactly.
time.
So are there any cities from the tour that kind of stand out for you so far that you've been on that oh, this was a great city and we just had a great time here or saw
Mhm.
some really great things? What are some standouts for you?
Well, we haven't been to too many cities yet, but
I was gonna say, when did you start? Because I couldn't remember.
um,
Like, when was this tour start?
March, the end of
Okay.
March,
Yeah,
Okay,
March.
gotcha.
March 20th, something like that. Our first city was Fayetteville, Arkansas, which I loved.
Loved it.
So cute. It kind of reminds me of Asheville, that college town though, college town Asheville. And we just came from Charlotte, which I had no idea was awesome.
Hmm.
I
Right.
grew up doing like dance conventions there and going there, obviously to fly out of the airport, but
Right.
I had no idea Charlotte was so cool.
It is
Yeah.
a cool town. It really is.
Yeah, it was really nice to feel like it felt like home. I mean, it's very similar to Greenville in that, a little bit bigger, but yeah, it was really nice to feel like at home. And there was these so many young people and
Hmm.
dogs and art and
Yes, trees,
trees.
just
Yeah.
You've been in
It's,
LA
it is
for a
nice.
tree?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thunderstorms. Oh my gosh, rain. It's wonderful.
I know it's wonderful. Our cities here in the South, we have trees, quite often, and a
Hey,
lot of the major
trees.
cities, it's they have a green space somewhere like Central Park or whatever, but
Uh,
it's really concrete and building.
yeah.
Very much so. It's nice to be around so many state parks and national parks, and we
Yeah.
went kayaking this morning, and just
Nice.
getting
Very
opportunities
nice.
to get outside.
Speaking of, where are you right now?
We are in Durham right now.
Okay.
Oh, yep.
Mhm.
North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Durham.
And so you got to do some kayaking this morning. How wonderful.
Mhm.
We
The
did.
temperatures are creeping up, aren't they?
Oh
Yes.
my goodness. And humidity. Not used to humidity.
Oh, it's the humidity. Yeah, used to the
Yeah.
heat, but the humidity is compared to 2
This
years in LA, it's
Yeah, I'm sure. This month has been really beautiful. The humidity really is just starting, it seems.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I'm feeling it already too. But earlier in the month, it was just beautiful. It's one of those times of years I love where you can have the windows open, no heat, no air. It's just kind of,
Mm.
beautiful temperatures. And now we're getting into the heat, but it's okay. It's okay. So, how do you feel about bringing Hamilton to your hometown?
I don't think I fully processed it yet. I was talking to one of our props people in the show, and I was like, the third show I ever did in my life, I did at the Peace Center, and coming back, I'm not going to say how many years later because it's a long time later to do a show professionally. It's just crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy to think that, like, with the children's theater, like, and all my dance competitions and conventions and recitals, like, I've been performing at that space for so long that it just
right.
felt like home, and, going to see all the shows as a kid just come through the city.
Yeah.
And now to be one of those people coming through, it I'm so excited. I am so
Oh, I bet. Well, the backstage has gone through a major renovation since you've been here, so you'll get to
I'm
see
so
all
excited.
that. Yeah, yeah, it's really beautiful. I spent a lot of time at the Peace Center because I worked there myself part time over the last 15 years. But so yeah, it's a beautiful space, and I think that's really really cool that you're gonna be able to experience it from this perspective. I think that's really great.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I feel like I haven't like mentioned it. I haven't
Mhm.
really told anybody that I'm on tour and I'm coming to Greenville yet. So this is a good like, hey,
Yeah.
announcement.
Well, your friends all know. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Getting back to your guys' relationship, how did you all meet? I mean, it's difficult sometimes for fellow actors to get together and stay together because their careers quite often take them in such different directions. But how
Mhm.
did you all come together?
Well, we actually met on Bumble in New York.
Okay.
I know. I had moved back to the city July of 2016,
Mhm.
and was getting back in the dating world,
Mhm.
and I messaged this guy, or we matched,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
You can tell you're
Oh yeah, we matched, and the thing with Bumble is, the girl has to send a message within 24 hours or you unmatch, and so it was getting down to the wire, and at that point, it's less line fishing. You're just throwing the net in the water,
Right,
and
right.
I was messing on my phone and pushed a button, and it extended it an extra 24 hours, and she was like, "Oh."
Yep, I
Oh.
got the notification. I was like,
I
"Ah."
see. Yeah, and then, just started going on dates, and then you booked Aladdin the tour
Yes,
and,
yep,
did long distance for so long, and
yep, I moved to the city in July.
Mhm.
I think we met maybe 2 weeks later, a
Mhm.
month later. We were dating, like, officially for a month, and then I booked the tour.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
That was gonna leave in, like, 5 more months,
Mhm.
so we had a it was a great time in the city, like, knowing I had a job, and
Mhm.
then, like, this one's kinda fun sometimes.
I tried. No, it was really great. I remember she was worried because you brought up the acting takes you all over the place, and I know you had a moment where you were worried that since you had booked the tour and our relationship was so fresh that maybe it wasn't going to last, or maybe I didn't wanna do long distance or
Mhm.
Well, he
how
had also joked that he had never dated anybody past 9 months.
Oh.
Well, we're going on 6 years now, so we broke the record.
There you go, broke the record. Very good.
Yeah, yeah, and it was for most of our dating relationship, we'd have times where we're together for a couple months, and then I would go off to do a production, or she would still be on tour in different cities, and it was just we found creative ways to do long distance, and whenever we could be next to each other, it was always worth it. So
Mhm.
That's
so
excellent. Very
great,
good.
great
And where are you from originally, Patrick?
I'm originally from Indiana.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep, 40 minutes northwest of Indianapolis. Hello, Lebanon, Indiana.
All right. And are you guys does your tour head that way at all at some point?
I think is it Columbus
The
that
closest we get is Cincinnati,
since
Okay.
which is about 2 hours away from 2.5 hours away from
Mhm.
Indy and all my family, or most of my family. So what's been really great about the Angelica tour is it's going through cities that have some of our closest friends or family,
Mhm.
and, so it's kind of like the family tour to see everyone that we didn't get to over the pandemic.
That's nice. How
Yeah, it's so
wonderful.
great.
It's a great benefit. Very good. Well, I know we are, really looking forward to Hamilton. It was at the Peace Center a couple of years ago as well, and really enjoyed it then. And it was only with us, I think, a week at that point, but and it sold out, immediately. I remember working when they announced the ticket sales and so on, and we were there at 5 in the morning and lines outside and corralling people and doing all these crazy things. So, of course, it has such a popularity to it, and it's just a wonderful show. I had never really experienced Hamilton until it came because
Mhm.
I always like to see a show in context rather than listen to a soundtrack beforehand and
Mhm.
really get a feel for it. And then afterwards, I'm usually all about the soundtrack and I can kind of recall the show back in my mind. But I really really enjoyed it and really looking forward to it coming back to Greenville
Mhm.
and seeing people in it that I know. Well, we appreciate you joining us today. This has been really fun to catch up and to meet your husband and to talk about coming to the Peace Center. We'll just really look forward to it and get to see and hug your neck, hopefully, when you're not all masked up backstage.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I'm just for hugs. Need to hug everybody at home.
Excellent. Well, again, good to talk with you. Safe journeys, and we will see you soon.
Oh, thank you
Cannot
so
wait.
much.
All right, thanks. And we get to meet Patrick too, and the pups. So, the whole family. Now, before I sign off, we get to see your mom and dad too. Where they're going to be joining you in Greenville.
You know they will make a trip to see me in this show.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. All right. Well, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you too.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was fantastic to catch up with Karlee and to meet Patrick.
Yes, really excited to talk with them both, and hopefully we'll get this chance to hug their neck while they're here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and puts a real live face to Patrick's name there because we haven't met him personally yet.
Right, haven't met him in the flesh.
Yeah.
So I just want to reiterate that Hamilton will be at the Peace Center in Greenville, South Carolina from Tuesday, June 7th through Sunday, June 19th. If you haven't got your tickets, and I say, why not? I would encourage you to call the box office at 864-467-3000. That's 864-467-3000. Or you can check online to see if there's any tickets left at peacecenter.org.
That's right. Only buy your tickets at peacecenter.org. There's a lot of scam sites out there, especially with tickets like to Hamilton, and they're being scalped and all that kind of thing. So you want to make sure that you're just buying your tickets from peacecenter.org.
Absolutely. Do not get scammed. And that's a good segue into not getting scammed for next season because there's an awesome Broadway season coming to the Peace Center.
Absolutely.
And we just want to really quickly dive into some of these titles. So they're getting 1776, Fiddler on the Roof, Dear Evan Hansen, Cats, Wicked, Come From Away, To Kill a Mockingbird, Beetlejuice, Jagged Little Pill, and what I'm most excited about, Six.
Yeah, absolutely. I am too. That and To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm really excited about both of those productions. So yeah, I'm really thrilled about those.
Yes. And if you don't know, a lot of those titles our listeners will probably be familiar with because a lot of them were movies or have been around for a while. But Six, if you don't know what it's about, it is a phenomenon out of London. And it is in the style of a girl band, kind of like the Spice Girls. But the girls in the band are all wives of King Henry VIII. King Henry VIII of England, of course. Back in the day, he had 6 wives, very famous. He beheaded a couple of them, divorced a few of them. A couple of them survived.
Right.
One of them survived. Well, the divorced one survived.
Right.
So both didn't survive. So I'm super excited. That'll be a little British history with this twist of this kind of pop rock girl band telling the story. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right, Breeze. I am sure we will be talking more about these amazing Peace Center shows in future episodes. But for now, I think that'll do it.
I think so too, Melanie. It was good talking with you as well and catching up and again, getting to talk with Karlee and Patrick. And until next time.
Absolutely. See you then.
See ya. Bye.
Bye. Thespis in the Green Room is a Courageous Crossings production.